It's Tuesday, July 22nd. Welcome to Scouting the League. Nearly every team across the league now has veterans and rookies in the building as all 32 franchises remain undefeated. 90 men on the roster with 53 spots that they are vying for. Veterans, draft picks, undrafted free agents, and of course our international prospects, all part of that group. And while the international prospects have taken a different path to get here, the NFL dream is what they aspire to. So, to talk more about the International Pathway Program, we bring back friend of the program and lead international scout for the NFL, Mark Dulgerian. But before we jump in with Mark, make sure you head over, like, subscribe, share this podcast wherever you are listening and watching. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or over on YouTube. If you like to see our, somewhat appealing faces, make sure you're liking and subscribing. Share this with a friend. Get the word out there. Mark is going to have some fantastic information on the IPP, all that goes into it. Make sure you head over, check out ProFootballInsiders.com as well. Find them on X at pro_FB_insiders. Mark, you are at Mark Dulgerian. You are lead international scout for the NFL. Welcome back to Scouting the League.
Great being here, Rodrik. Love it. Love talking shop with you, man.
Yeah, it is football. It is scouting. It is scouting in a different way with some of these international players. We'll talk about that. But again, the success of the International Pathway Program, again, we've talked about it. Long format. We've got some updates. But again, since 2023, the IPP can be credited with 22 NFL contracts, guys that have signed those 22 contracts, 4 athletes on Super Bowl rosters, 10 countries, 7 sport backgrounds. We've got basketball, rugby, track and field, boxing, wrestling, a personal favorite of mine, of course, Australian football and soccer. Again, getting ready to ramp up for workouts starting in August. You are in the thick of scouting for it. Again, not thinking about this year, but next year. Again, catch us up on all things International Pathway Program.
Yeah, like you said, we're in the thick of scouting season for the IPP, specifically looking ahead to the 2026 IPP program, which would begin in January of 2026. So we are in the middle of whittling down a very large watch list that has been a culmination of finding prospects over the last several months, whether it be submissions from agents, doing our own research, or athletes reaching out themselves. We're getting to that point where we want to start whittling down our watch list and figure out who we want to see in person, who we want to put through a private workout, see them move around a little bit in person, and get them started in that in-person evaluation process.
So we talked about, again, college scouts are going to go on the road this fall, and, in an area scout's going to see, probably end up writing 300 to 400 reports. How many names, how many guys have you whittled it down from, and how many are you going to end up with where you will watch that private individual workout?
Yeah, so this year we've got the list. We started out with a list of about 1,000 athletes around the world.
Just a few around the world.
Right. World's a big place, 8 billion people. So started out with a list of about 1,000, whittled that down to about 300. And now I'm taking that 300 and I'm trying to find, it's really not a set number, that of guys that we want to whittle down to like a workout list. But so far, I've got a list of about 28, and I anticipate that list growing a bit more. These are guys who I've categorized as, based on limited exposure remotely, whether it's film, whether it's their information that's available online or from their agent or themselves, that are worth kind of kicking the tires on and checking out in person, kind of seeing them, get some live exposure on them. So right now that list is down to about 28. Like I said, I anticipate that list growing a bit over the next few weeks. And then late July, I'm hitting the road and starting out those in-person workouts around the world.
Nice. You get the travel miles ready. Again, Mark, from a scout's perspective, scouts sometimes complain when we have to watch Division III football film on Huddle, again, maybe you got a wobbly end zone camera. What are some film stories? Like, man, somebody was recording this on an old camcorder and we had a VHS tape show up with this really good looking height, weight, speed. Is it that rough getting around the world and watching some of these guys, or is it, hey, they get pretty good cell phone cameras? Like, is that kind of what film you're watching?
Gosh, I would love grainy huddle film sometimes. Yeah, every once in a while we do get that huddle film, and we get some YouTube film, or someone will send me some clips of a guy working out at some park or some field somewhere. I'll get a text on WhatsApp, with some footage that I'll then upload into our database. But yeah, it varies greatly. When I'm watching the European League of Football film, I get coaches film, from all the angles on huddle. And then sometimes, like I said, it's someone sets up their phone and, on a tripod in a field, and they text it to me via WhatsApp. And that's all I have to use. So it definitely varies quite a bit, as does the information that I'm given. Some guys, I'm given a height and weight, and I show up to their workout, and the guy who says he's 6'7" is actually 6'3", maybe 6'2" sometimes.
Yeah.
And I asked, I get him to stand up against the wall to verify his measurements, and he's not taking his cleats off. It's like, oh, I thought you'd leave your cleats on for heights. And I'm like, oh, that's why why you think you're 6'7".
Yeah.
So you find all those things out on the road, and that's one of the reasons that we go out and want to verify things in person before we bring them in to an official combine setting, or extend any sort of invites beyond that initial workout.
Yeah, there is no international NFS or Blesto out ahead of you getting all that verified. Again, verified information is always gold to scouts. Again, it's no different for you. You just have to go get that verified information yourself. Again, you hit on the height and the weight already. Again, speed, hopefully you're getting something accurate. But again, that is the number one thing I'm telling agents all the time. If you want to start somewhere, height, weight, speed. There is a certain look that an NFL player has. There is a certain height. Of course, we always get our outliers. Yes, we understand that we're not talking about outliers. There's a height, weight, speed parameter that you have. Is that the number one spot you're still starting at? He's got to look like an NFL prospect, and then beyond that, hey, now let's look at his change of direction. Let's think about him positionally. Is it as simple for you as let's start with height, weight, speed, and see where it goes?
For the most part, obviously they have to qualify as an international athlete. We look for a certain developmental age range as well. But in terms of what we're looking at on film, and from a physical measurement standpoint, absolutely, you hit the nail on the head. Like they, NFL personnel, man, we had a conversation with them at the combine this previous year, and he put it really good. He said, with the IPP, we're looking for Avengers. We're looking for the guys that look the part and move, a certain way. So, walking off the bus, that's where it starts. Because you mentioned, D3 film and, projecting guys from lower levels of competition. These guys are playing against competition that in some cases is lower than D3. So, the way we look at it is they've got to be able to walk into an NFL position room, and their skill set is not going to be anywhere close to the other guys in that room. They'll need time to develop those. So they'll need to have some sort of physical advantage or athletic advantage that they have over the rest of the guys in the group that can be developed and molded. So yeah. Yes, the height, weight, speed, 100% from a physical standpoint. Athleticism standpoint, that's a big box that needs to be checked up front.
Yeah. No, I remember back again. We had in Atlanta, F.A. Obata looked the part, long, lanky, cut, low body fat, straight line, fantastic. Now it's time to teach him to play football. And again, over time, you've definitely seen that. You saw his career grow, blossom from again, a borderline practice squad backup to a guy that was contributing every week. And of course, the golden boy, the poster child, the rare human being, Jordan Mailata. Again, that was, again, one of the prettiest workouts I've ever seen in Tampa. And again, he has gone on to show exactly the traits that he had and was blessed with. You talked about those criteria, again, height, weight, speed. You talked about the age range. You talked about these certain criteria. One of the things that I get questions on, I look at college rosters, and there's more and more of these players that they list, again, Germany, Austria, Australia as their home country. What are the parameters if somebody's looking at a roster like, oh, that could be an IPP player, that could be somebody down the road that maybe falls into that program, developmental, again, colleges do a good job, but again, maybe they still need another year or two or three or whatever it may be. What kind of college athletes are you looking at? Is anybody that was born internationally? Kind of how do you guys work through those college rosters to find candidates?
Yeah, that's a good question. It's a question that comes up often for myself as well from agents and even NFL teams as to, does this college guy qualify for an international roster spot, let alone the IPP? So the first question, I always ask or I always look into is, do they have more than 2 years of U.S. high school experience? If they do, then they are not considered eligible to be categorized as an international player, meaning they wouldn't be eligible for that international roster spot. They wouldn't be eligible for the IPP.
That's 2 years of high school experience.
Cannot have more than 2 years of high school experience. If they have 2 years of high school experience, spent 5 years at Ohio State, and he's coming into the draft, and he's born outside of North America, he should be eligible for that international categorization. If he's got 3 years, that removes his eligibility. So
yep.
That's the big one. Aside from that, as far as like who qualifies for the IPP, so that the first step is they have to qualify as an international athlete. And then it's a little bit more subjective in terms of who we want to bring in for the IPP. What I always say is, the IPP camp is 10 weeks. What are they going to learn in those 10 weeks that they didn't learn in however long he spent in college or wherever he was playing? So if it is a guy who, spent 2 years of high school in the U.S., spent 5 years, playing at Ohio State at, obviously one of the best programs in the country, what's he going to get in those 10 weeks with us at IMG Academy that he didn't get in those 5 years at Ohio State? So would he be a good fit for the IPP? Does he need the IPP? So that's a question that we ask ourselves when we're considering guys who maybe do have some U.S. college experience. And then you have different trajectories, guys who maybe, got to the U.S. when they're, 20 years old. They bounced around a couple of JUCOs, didn't really play much or get great coaching, maybe played a year and a half at a Division I or FCS school. So there is some foundation there, but for one reason or another, it didn't stick, or, something happened to where their development was stalled. And so we'll put some consideration into those guys in terms of, are they a fit for the IPP? Can they learn something, while they're with us for 10 weeks? So those are all questions that go into it. So that's kind of a long-winded answer to your question, but
it's the right answer though. And it is there again, it's not a cut and dried. Again, you got your certain criteria you get through. And then again, you got a lot of questions, just like in scouting, you just start asking questions and see where it goes. That is the beauty of scouting, whether you're at colleges, in the pros, or internationally. And that's why, good scouts like you are continuing to find really good players. And it's one of those funny things. It's usually not scouts that take credit. often it's articles, or again, if you want to pat their back, it's like, oh, this scout found this player at Ohio State. Like, yeah, no, you didn't. Like, everybody knew about that player. But in your case, you are actually finding players all over the world where you can, I don't want to say take credit, but maybe that is the right term. You can certainly put a feather in the cap of like, I was the first one to stand on the table for this guy in some situation. With last year's class heading into preseason, we got some really good players the last couple of years. Are there any guys competing for roster spots on rosters that, hey man, I'm excited to see them. I'm excited to see how they compete, where they end up come cut down to 53 time as they kind of continue their NFL development?
Yeah, so that's always the exciting part for us, is to see once they've, once we've discovered them, once they go through our development program and then they sign with a team, it's like, well, now the journey begins really. That here's where it gets hard. So, preseason is always a really exciting part. Like most scouts, right? Like you want to see how those guys turn out in the league at the highest level. Um, with our guys, we're hoping for a certain amount of reps. A lot of them aren't going to be ready for heavy reps in the preseason, even at least in their first year. So we'll be tracking kind of their playing time. There is, one of our guys that I was actually really impressed with to see his progress from when I first started watching him in Europe, and then seeing him progress through our developmental program. And then he actually even participated in the NFL Combine back in February. Lenny Krieg, he was kicking for the Stuttgart Surge in Germany with the European League of Football. Was a standout kicker in that league. We ended up working him out. Was impressive with us. Went through our developmental camp, and each year, our specialists, the specialists that are part of the IPP, get invited to work out at the NFL Combine alongside all the NCAA guys. Well, Lenny was the only kicker, regardless of where they're from, to hit 100% of his field goals at the Combine. So that obviously opened up a lot of eyes around the league. He ends up getting signed by the Atlanta Falcons. Lenny, I've just been really impressed by his trajectory, and and he's a great kid as well. I mean, he was hungry. He was practically kicking down our door, trying to get into the program. And my DMs are filled with messages from him, and I'm like, all right, let's give him a shot and see what he's got. And he's just taken the opportunity and really, really ran with it. So, Falcons are definitely fortunate to get him on the roster.
Yeah, well, I'm sure that's a pun intended, kicking down the door, trying to get into the NFL, and he chose a good spot for it. And again, excited for him. The Falcons, one of the last teams to open up training camp on July 23rd. So again, if you are out there, look at that competition. They have had a pretty consistent kicking game. You go from Matt Bryant to Younghoe Koo, and maybe the next in the line of successful Falcons kickers will be an international prospect. So we'll just see where it goes. As agents, as personnel guys, as people across the country, across the world, as we do have some international listeners, is they have players pop up, Mark. They're like, hey, I think this player, again, they don't send a list to him. Don't send your roster of European football. If you have a legitimate candidate, where are you open at? Email, DMs, where can people get these prospects to you to hopefully get you to take a look at them?
Yeah, I actually encourage, coaches or agents or whomever, I encourage them to send guys that maybe they're on the fence about or unsure. I'll give them a list of basic parameters. 6'4" plus, 225 plus, big, long, body types, outlier athleticism or body control or explosion. And then let them interpret that. And I don't mind doing the work on my end, and I'll give them feedback like, this is not quite what I'm looking for, this is what I'm looking for. And I try to make it as easy as possible for them to submit them. So I'll just tell them, you can either email me or text me on WhatsApp is usually what it is. The player information, name, date of birth, country, height, weight, and some film, a link to their film. It could be highlights. It could be, like I said, it could be, setting up your phone in the backyard and doing some drills just to see him move around a little bit. And then, I can kind of direct them and give them an idea of what else I would need. But just for that initial submission, I try to make it as easy as possible for them to do that. And I can determine, whether or not we want to move forward in the process.
Good. Nice and easy. Again, a man that's making it easy for everybody else by the work you're doing. He is at Mark Dulgerian on Twitter. Make sure you follow him. Mark, my passport's ready. You ever need somebody to tag along and run a stopwatch for you, I am here for you. Again, hopefully you find some more unicorns out there, find unicorns across the world that we'll be watching for here in the next couple of years. And as you hit the road, as you get out and see these guys, best of luck, and always appreciate you coming on the podcast.
Yeah, likewise. Like, I'm really excited about it this year. I will say one last note: the quality of play that I've seen, in Europe and South America and South Pacific, the quality of athlete and quality of football play has really improved since I, joined the IPP in 2022. So the NFL is doing something right. It's getting more interest, around the world, and I think we're starting to see that play out, which is awesome to see.
Good. The NFL is not, we'll go there. The American football is not just an American sport. It is traveling around the world. Mark is a big part of that. So make sure you head over to X, follow him at Mark Dulgerian. Check the show notes for that link. Keep looking at those international prospects. Check your team's rosters. We ran down that this last week. Check out those international players. See who's developing. See who's getting that play time. See who's developing, progressing through their NFL career. Have questions about the IPP, again, hit Mark, hit myself up. I am at RightStepADV. Hit Neil Stratton. He is at Inside the League. As you continue to go through your preseason scouting, check out those international players. Find those unicorns. Find those guys that look like they belong in the NFL no matter where they're at. Hit those parameters, and hopefully they will someday be wearing that NFL logo. But until then, you just keep on enjoying football and keep scouting.